And now you're jealous because you don't like our sexual preference because it doesn't benefit you anymore. But now they're older, and you're telling me it's gross that men have their sexual preferences? That's what you're telling me? Fuck you. Hello, sexies. Lend me your ear. Happy weekend. This is a public service announcement to all you gentlemen out there. Before we get into it, like, subscribe, hit the notification, but you know what to do. And then send it to somebody if you think they need to hear this. Welcome to the Danger Lounge, where all your dreams come true, and every day is a Saturday night. I'm your host, The Dangerous One, and today we're going to talk about preferences. That's right, preferences. We all have preferences, okay? But it seems in today's society that, certain people or certain demographics are shamed for certain things, and other people are for the exact same thing are not shamed for the equivalent preferences. So, for example, I know you've heard this before. If you like dating and, flirting and sex and relationships and topics about these things, then you've heard other people talk about similar things, and this is my take on it personally. So it seems to me that we're now in a society, and gentlemen, this is for you because I want you to start staying up for yourselves because I've just kind of had enough of this. Ladies, let's start with the ladies. Now, everyone knows that women have certain preferences, all things being equal. They have certain preferences, like they prefer guys that are taller. Some don't. They prefer guys that are in shape. Okay, who doesn't? Fine. And they have preferences as, they want a certain level of communication skills. They want a certain level of education. They want a certain level of curiosity, of value, right? Status, whatever brings value. You can have certain things. If you can have all those things, even better, right? But a certain level of value. But all those things, other than the God-given gift of maybe good looks or height, for a guy, must be earned, right? You're not going to, unless you inherit a bunch of money, you're not going to make money unless you're starting a business or you educate yourself. You're not going to be educated unless you educate yourself, or you go to school, or you read a lot. You're not going to become good at a skill unless you practice it, unless you toil a little bit. You're not going to be a great communicator, a good flirter, or whatever it is that women like without practice and failure and some successes here and there, more failure, right? Pain, suffering, going through the fire to forge this sword. You're not going to become that unless you work for it. And these things can take years. In the meantime, this is why you don't see a lot of young guys that are really great with women. And that's why almost all women are going to naturally prefer guys who are a little bit older, a little bit more mature, a little bit together. Because the things they're interested in take time to earn them. That's why they say men age like wine, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally. And they also mean incompetency, because what women are attracted to overall is competency. And where does competency, where does that come from? That comes from experience. It comes from failure. It comes from having to get better. It comes from having to experience pain and not want to deal with that anymore and getting better. And all that makes sense. And it makes sense. We kind of accept that as a society, right? Women's preferences, that we must get better. We must become more valuable. And by the way, it plays itself out in the sexual marketplace. This is why the same guys get more and more women. That's why women don't mind 10 of them sleeping with the same guy, because they all want the same dudes, right? Does that make sense? So, that we all sort of accept that the way that is, because that's biology and it makes sense. Right, I must ask, why then, when there's the equivalent biology, because men have preferences also. Women have preferences, and men obviously have sexual preferences, and our preferences are designed to meet our biology, which is sexual variety, which most women don't particularly like, that we like. And but most women do accept that. They know that, right? Because of their sexual preference towards those very same guys. So they kind of know that inherently, right? They know that any famous guy or any really good looking guy, a really skilled guy, or the thing that has the things that other women want, they know inherently those guys are very rarely not going to have a multitude of females because they are also one of those people that want that. So it's no surprise to them. But the one they really don't like, and this comes from, well, obviously it comes from older women, middle-aged older women, because of young women benefit from it. So why would they care, right? But as they get older, there seems to be there's a demographic of women who really don't like this and sort of shame men for this. They shame men for either the variety, right? Oh, you can't control yourself, blah, blah, blah. You can't control you. We've heard all that narrative before. Okay, well, you try walking around with this much testosterone every day and see how you do. Okay? And then, because we know that you ladies, you will rationalize shit all day. If it's a dress that you want and you don't have the money for it, you will rationalize doing it anyway, put it on that credit card, and you will rationalize away. If there's a guy you want or there's some situation you want, you'll find a way to rationalize it after the behavior has been done already. We know this. It's not true for every woman, but we know that it's very possible. Very possible. So why is it that, when you can't quite understand what it's like to have this appendage between our legs, that we are shamed and shunned for it? Yes, it's not easy, ladies and gentlemen, and we do the best we can sometimes. Sometimes we just don't give a fuck. But we do the best we can for the most part, and sometimes we fail. But that's primarily because that's how we were designed, right? That's how we were designed. That's not a cop-out, ladies. That's how we're designed. You may not like it. I'm just reporting it. Don't get mad at me. I didn't come up with the amount of testosterone that most men are given. It's just what happens. So the other preference that we have is, again, not all things being equal, some men preferences are across the board different, but most men, given the choice, sexually are going to prefer a younger woman. This is just a fact. Everyone knows this. I don't know why I got to act like this is new news or something that's even controversial. Most men are going to want a younger version. Why? Because just like biology, they're going to be attracted to that because that's what is fertile. Not that they're thinking of it that way, just that's what they're attracted to. Just no different than you're attracted to a guy who's 6 foot as opposed to a guy that's 5'5", right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not fair necessarily to the guy that's 5'5" either, is it? But you don't have any problem saying you prefer the 6 foot guy or the 5'5" 6 foot brother, do you? Do you think that makes that dude feel good? No. Okay. Here's the thing that you got to understand, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, you should understand, gentlemen. Women are born with status. If you think about it, they are essentially the equivalent of a famous rich man, right? Think about it. In terms of mating potential, it is the equivalent of what a famous rich actor or a famous athlete would be able to pull in. They can basically pull off any guy they want to sleep with, right? That they can have sex with whomever they want to for the most part. They may not be able to get them to commit or to physically or to actually date them. But if they want to sleep with them, they can do so easily. So do you think women are going to value sex as much as you do? Or probably not, right? Because they take it for granted because they can have sex whenever they want. So for you to be able to do that is a lot different. You're not going to have the ability to do that as a guy unless you're a rich, famous, status-driven person, right? It's just not going to be the same equivalent unless you're very good, right? You can have skill and good flirtation skill and great communication skills and all that. And you can do what you can do with what you got. But most men are never going to know what it's like to be an average, and I said average female in physical attractiveness. Because even the average woman, the average female, let's say a 5 out of 10, is going to be treated by most men as an 8 because they have something they all want. Even if the woman is not that attractive, they will still sleep with her, even if they don't want to date her. They don't even have to like her, right? So it's the equivalent of a famous man, Okay. So when you're a little boy, gentlemen, and you're a young guy, or and or a younger guy in high school, let's say that most guys struggle in high school, and or even into their early 20s or mid 20s, even right. Some guys struggle forever, but the whole point is that when you're young, you haven't developed yet. You don't have your skills yet. You're not competent in a whole lot of things yet, particularly skills that women want, right? You're not mature yet. You're not evolved yet to the point where you're going to appeal to be that attractive. You have to work on that. And then through that work involves a lot of pain and failure. Watching other guys who do know what's going on or have more money than you do, that maybe they did or maybe they didn't. Whatever the case is, you got to watch that and you have to suck it. You got to bite the bullet and you got to get better. It sucks. You watch women that you really like and care about go off with other men and all these things, and it sucks. But what do? You get better, don't you? You get better and better and better. So all that pain that you went through, is that for nothing? It's not, because as you get older, women's sexual marketplace value goes down with age. Men continue to go up for a long time as long as they keep adding value. Whether that be more competency, more status, more skills, better personality, whatever that may be, their value continues to go up. And they have access to younger and younger women because a lot of young women like older guys. And so we might be shamed for that, right? Because it's a threat at this point, right? It wasn't a threat to the 20-some-year-olds then because they were benefiting from it. But as those 20-somethings get into their 30s, 40s, 50s, those women don't like it anymore because it no longer behooves them. So the guy had to put in the work to make himself more appealing, go through the pain of it, right? Every guy wanted to have that chick in high school, and he had to watch some other guy get it, right? Or all these things, and you couldn't have it. Imagine ladies having testosterone and wanting, all these variety of women and not having the power to do it, or not having, because you weren't evolved yet and you didn't know. Imagine it. Most guys go through that. It's very painful, very painful. That's not something a lot of women have to go through, at least in that way. Okay, so try to empathize here a little. The woman, on the other hand, didn't really have to do shit. She could have worked on herself. She could have, and that's fine and dandy. But in terms of sexual marketplace value, the woman really didn't have to do shit. She was just her. Sweet. That's it. That's all she had to be, was attractive physically. Maybe a little bit of personality would have been very nice, right? In terms of having sex, though, that's all that really matters. It's not that way for a guy. So he puts in, and finally gets to a point in his mid-20s, late 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. Now he's able to get the younger women, which he's attracted to. That's the ultimate for a guy. 20s, mid-20s, something like that, even younger sometimes. Finally has access to beautiful women that he had to watch his younger self lose. And you're telling him now so let me just try to get straight. And you're telling him now that he went through all that bullshit. Now that you're in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, you don't want him getting what you got in your 20s and teens when you didn't have to do shit for it because you were just young and pretty. You're not allowing him to go through, because now it's his turn to have that. You had it back then. It's just the opposite for guys and women. But you're telling him that he can't have it, he shouldn't, or he should be ashamed of it, or a number of different labels you put on that. They're all negative. And now you're jealous because you don't like our sexual preference because it doesn't benefit you anymore. But now they're older, and you're telling me it's gross that men have their sexual preferences? That's what you're telling me? Fuck you. Fuck you. Let me tell you why. Because we had to go through the pain. And I say this with no exaggeration. Pain, suffering, embarrassment. Okay? Walk around with your tail between your legs when you're a teenager. It is horrible for a guy in many ways. Okay? So you're telling me we go through all that to get better, to work on ourselves, to improve. And now that we're in a position that biology is actually working for us as we get older, and we are more valuable now. You're telling me that you don't want me or my brethren trying to shame us and judge me for wanting younger women that biology has lent itself, that biology has pushed me towards, okay? Because I have a preference. Now, that is some grade A bullshit, if you ask me, if I've ever heard of it. And gentlemen, do not apologize for having these preferences. You like variety. Yeah. So what? They like a guy that's 6 foot tall. You like younger women. They like a guy that's 6 foot tall. What are you supposed to do? Okay? What are you supposed? Am I supposed to change my stripes? Don't be ashamed of it, men. Do not be ashamed about it. And by the way, don't apologize. You know what? You go back in time and you high five that high school version, but you high fives that little boy who was 8 years old and watched all these beautiful women and you couldn't do anything about it because you're 8 years old. You know? I mean, don't apologize for it. Embrace it. Embrace your masculinity, your masculine needs. There's nothing wrong with it. As long as you treat people with respect, as long as it's mutual, as long as it's consensual, as long as it's fun and interesting and adventurous and you're not hurting anybody, I don't see the problem with it. Live and let live. Ladies, everyone likes that attitude, live and let live, but you don't seem to like it when it doesn't benefit you. I think we should celebrate men that do that. There's a reason why men that have access to a lot of women, like Leonardo DiCaprio, for example, always seems to be, and it doesn't matter how old they are, 40s, 50s, 60s, they always seem to be with these really young women, George Clooney's, whatever, women who are a lot younger. Is it because they have all these access to whatever kind of woman they want? They get those young women. I don't see a lot of, when they're celebrities, I don't hear a lot of backlash about it though, right? But if it's a average guy that likes younger women or a variety of women or whatever, that seems to be a problem. So don't apologize for it. Embrace it. If someone can't handle that, I say, once again, with all due respect, fuck you. Good day now.